Thank you very much, Fiona, and thank you very much to the Renovate Europe campaign for inviting me. I want to take a step away from the discussion about the future policies and what they could look like to actually analyzing the current situation of implementation. And what I'm going to present to you are literally preliminary findings, because we're in the middle of the analysis of analyzing the 2017 edition of the National Renovation Strategies, which are required under the still Article 4 of the Energy Efficiency Directive. You may remember the first edition was required to be published in April 2014, and 3 years later, in April 2017, the next deadline was set in that Article 4. We did this analysis together with a number of national Renovate Europe partners, to whom we are very grateful for helping us in doing that. So what are the main results? First of all, and I hope you can see that despite the shadows, first of all, only half of the member states, 14 out of 28, have submitted their national renovation strategy at the end of September. So there's a cutoff date, 30th of September, just 10 days ago. Half of the member states simply have missed the deadline, at least according to the information available on the website of DG Energy. So we chose a few of those. We chose half of those to have a deeper look. We did not only look at really submitted renovation strategies, those we looked at are from Croatia, Czech Republic, France, and Spain, but we also looked at drafts, which we had access to, and those drafts concern Hungary, Poland, and Italy. And so we evaluated those 7. The Article 4 of the Efficiency Directive is very clear in specifying 5 headlines, 5 topics which should be covered by the national renovation strategies, and I will go through these 5 topics. The first one is the challenge or the request to provide a comprehensive overview of the national building stock. And you see in this color-coded map, where the colors, even despite my glasses, are not very clear, well, you see that only 2 countries get a green shade, and that means only 2 countries out of the 14 have really done a detailed analysis of the building stock. And the best practice example really here is the Czech Republic, which also did a comprehensive calculation of the savings included on the possible impacts of future climate impacts, and also on the heat island effects in cities. So a very detailed analysis was done by the Czech Republic. Some of the other renovation strategies did a rather poor job, as you can see here in the color coding. The second main task in the renovation strategies is to really identify cost-effective approaches to renovation. And again, the Czech Republic is a very good example. All the other countries, well, except for Croatia, Croatia and Czech Republic are really good examples. All the other countries do essentially an inadequate job in identifying really those very important national opportunities to improve the renovation. The third headline concerns a description of policies and measures to stimulate the renovation. So what does the country really have in the planning to stimulate renovation activities, to trigger investments? And there the picture is a bit more mixed than before. We have some countries which do an acceptable job. Other countries, again, do an excellent job. Poland, for example, does not specify any policies and measures in large detail, and that section is completely missing in the Hungarian case. So a very mixed picture here again. The fourth requirement is to provide a forward-looking perspective to really guide the investments. Again, best practice examples are Croatia and the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic really described the annual and the cumulative investment needs to 2020, 2030, and 2050. So really did a long-term forecasting. And that actually done for 5 different scenarios and 2 different climate change scenarios. So very, very detailed again. Unfortunately, again, most of the other countries, also the big member states, did not do this to any satisfactory outcome. The fifth headline concerns the overall calculation of the energy savings which could be achieved with an ambitious renovation strategy and the wider societal benefits. We heard this morning Commissioner Cañete highlighting again the multiple benefits of energy renovation. Unfortunately, again, most of the countries which we analyzed do not take that into account. Again, the best practice examples come from the Czech Republic and Croatia, both who have done a more detailed analysis of the potential savings and the wider societal benefits. So that is not a really good picture which I can present to you about the 2017 edition of the renovation strategies. But it's also important to actually look back to the 2014 renovation strategies and to ask the question, well, what has been done to implement those 2014 renovation strategies? And we looked at a slightly different set of countries in this case. Again, of course, looking at the 14, but a different mix. We analyzed 9 countries in total. And I will be very brief in summarizing it because it's still ongoing analysis. We expect to publish a short report on the topic in around about 4 weeks or so, definitely in time for the trialogue, the negotiations between the institutions. One of the key questions, of course, is, well, have any new legislative measures been introduced since that 2014 edition of the renovation strategies? Have member states taken steps to implement the strategy? And I think the biggest step was essentially taken by France, where the energy transition law from 2015 really introduced bold new renovation targets, and also with a specific focus on fuel poverty. France, in addition to that, implemented a number of support measures, like an impactful financing program, for example. Other countries, like Croatia, did a very specific step in making it easier to introduce renovation in multi-story, multi-apartment buildings, because earlier there was a 100% majority or a unanimous decision necessary to renovate such a building. Now it's only a simple majority, which is necessary, 51%. So that really reduces one key barrier to renovation of large residential buildings. Hungary, for example, introduced stricter cost optimality rules and rules for nearly zero energy buildings. But on the other hand, we also know that the monitoring system lacks power. But nevertheless, even a country which did not do so well in the initial evaluation of the 2017 strategies took a number of steps. Italy introduced very, very tough requirements for renovation, and some of the stakeholders even consider those requirements too tough and almost creating another barrier. The Czech Republic and Poland introduced no new legislation, but as we know in the 2017 strategy of Poland, Poland has an ambitious plan in place. The Joint Research Center of the European Commission published back in 2016, I think it was, or was it late 2015, I can't remember exactly. Anyway, it published also a very deep analysis of all the renovation strategies, and it made a number of recommendations, very clear recommendations per member state. And we asked the question whether the member states have taken these recommendations seriously. We found again that only 2 countries, Croatia and the Czech Republic, took these recommendations seriously, and you can see a change in the 2017 edition of the National Renovation Strategy. Italy took some improvements, so they took on board some of the recommendations, but Poland and France seemed to have ignored the recommendations from the JRC more or less completely. At least these are the initial results of our analysis. So all in all, I have to conclude that the result, the current edition of the National Renovation Strategies is in summary, rather disappointing. Half of the member states seem to simply have ignored the deadline. Well, maybe we will see some submissions in the coming weeks. Let's hope for the best, but on the 30th of December, only half of the member states had submitted their renovation strategies. There is a very limited uptake of the recommendations, and it seems simply to me that member states do not understand the strategic importance of having a renovation strategy in place. I don't want to accuse anybody of bad will, and I think there are a number of immediate opportunities which we can take to, well, rectify the situation and improve the situation. One of them is to really have a concerted action for the EPBD, which is stronger, better resourced, and more effective than the current version. There will be a new concerted action starting next year, and that's the platform where member states collaborate, exchange best practice. I think it's a very successful tool, but it can be strengthened enormously. And the second big opportunity I see is really a revision and a strengthening of the multi-annual financial framework of the European Commission to channel more funding to that topic and make the financial instruments more effective. And with that, I would like to close, and I hope I was not too long, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much.